All right, I've lost count here, but I think this is part 13 in our series of 5D, the five dimensions. And we're getting to the last dimension today, which is the soul. And so I want to describe, first of all, what is the soul, and then we'll go from there. As we've been talking about the five dimensions that are mentioned in scripture that make up the parts of who we are as a person, is our mind, our body, our will, our social aspect of who we are. And today we're looking at the soul. What is the soul? There's a myth or misunderstanding that the soul is this ghost part of us, that it's this inanimate part of who we are. But that is not what scripture talks about when it talks about the soul. The soul is everything that makes up our inner life. All these dimensions, all wrapped up together in a holistic sense, that is our soul. There's a song that says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his name." And that phrase, all that is within me, everything that makes up my interior, everything that makes up my life and defines who I am, that is my soul. So my soul is all of this. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And what we're going to talk about is when our soul is fragmented, when our soul is disintegrated instead of integrated, when it is split, so to speak, when it is not integrated, it's not congruent, but it is fractured. And it looks different for the betrayer than it does for the betrayed, but it's the same outcome. And that is a disintegrated or fragmented soul. Now, the difference is for the betrayer, this is manufactured. We created the fragment. This is self-imposed. We did this. We fracture our soul, our self, our sense of self. But for the betrayed partner, she didn't manufacture this. This is a soul wound for her. This was imposed upon her. So same word, soul, and same word, fragmented or disintegrated, but different source, different responsibility, and different work to reintegrate our soul. So in a very real sense, we're going to focus on the betrayer, the men today, and what's going on in the soul. What we did with our deceptive system is we fragmented, we disintegrated, we fractured our sense of self, our soul. Everything that is within us is now disintegrated instead of integrated in some way. And we're going to talk about how that happens. So the language we're going to use today is we've got the normal reality, the house upstairs, and we've got the secret sexual basement downstairs. And we separated the two with the first component of four that we're going to talk about today, which is compartmentalization. So what we're going to talk about is a system of deception that fragmented our soul. Four different components of that system. And each of the four components is doing something different in that system across time and space. So the very first component is compartmentalization. What is compartmentalization? It is the creation of an alternative reality. When we did that, we fragmented our soul. All that is within us was not integrated anymore. It was split. We had parallel realities that we were maintaining at the same time. And our partner upstairs did not know about the parallel reality downstairs. We compartmentalized. Compartmentalization is this line right here. We created a separate space, a compartment. It is a structure. It is a space. It is a room. It is architecture. It's the beginning of the deceptive system. It's the first of the four components. It is the basement. We created a compartment. And in this space that we created down here is the space where the other three operate, and they operate downstairs, hidden deep down inside of us in our interior. And we go to so much effort to make sure that these two areas, these two realities, they never touch, they never overlap. So we do this incredible burning of so much energy to try and make sure those that are upstairs never discover the other compartment, the other reality. So this is the where. This is where the deceptive system takes place. This is where the other three components that we're going to look at today function. They function down here in this compartment we created. And it requires so much energy to maintain this. We are literally burning our soul's fuel that is meant for intimacy, that is meant for being fully present upstairs, that's meant for prayer and joy and abundant living. We are burning the fuel of our soul to maintain these two compartments. It requires a tremendous amount of effort and energy and thought. There's a passage in James chapter 1, verse 8, which says this: the double-minded man is unstable in everything he does. Double-minded. What does that mean? In the original language, which was Greek, the word for double-minded literally is di, which means two, psychos, which is the Greek word for soul. It's saying the man who has two souls, two selves, two realities, the double-minded, the double-souled man is unstable in everything that he does. He's not integrated. He is split. He is disintegrated. He is double-souled. And he's unstable because he has no foundation. He's pivoting between two different realities, two different versions of himself. That's what it means to be compartmentalized, to be double-minded, to be double-souled. So when we create that space, there are three components that show up within the basement. And these have a different orientation. And I'm going to try to, as clearly as I can, draw a distinction between these three and what they're actually doing. So the first component that's in that deceptive system, this is a system. It starts with compartmentalization. We create a new space. We create real estate in our life that no one else has access to. And the very first component within that compartment is what is called entitlement, entitled beliefs. Entitlement, one way to think about entitlement is it is forward thinking in its orientation. It's future tense. It's forward looking. It is the belief that grants me permission to do what I'm about to do. None of us who betrayed our partners, none of us who deceived our partners or were unfaithful to our partners did that without first entitled thinking, a way of thinking that gave us permission to do it. It predates unfaithfulness. It opens the door. In the Manwala model, he calls it compulsive entitled sexuality. It's the thought that I deserve what I'm about to do. I give myself permission. It's as if we have this internal hidden ledger inside of us, and it's got two columns in it. Because I did X, I deserve Y. Or because X happened, I'm entitled to Y. So it might look something like this. I work really hard. I'm a good provider. I deserve to have this one compartment in my life that no one knows about. I've earned this. I am owed this. I deserve this. In this column, my wife neglects me, or my wife rejects me, or she doesn't meet my needs, or whatever that entitled belief is. Therefore, I am owed X, Y over here. I deserve, or it's an exception. It's okay. I give myself permission. I have a right to do Y because my wife did X over here. Or the rules that apply to most men and Y over here, they don't apply to me because of X over here. We have somehow pre-decided that it's okay to do what we're about to do. Entitlement is future-oriented. There's no way that we would have ever stepped out of our relationship if there wasn't an entitled belief that was the driver behind it. We didn't decide in the moment. We pre-decided. How did we pre-decide? Entitled thinking. I have suffered so much that it's okay for me to do this. I give so much to so many people, I deserve a release valve. Because of my trauma in my past, it's okay for me to blank. Or sometimes our entitled thinking will even be blame shifting on God. God made me this way. God made me high drive, which, by the way, doesn't exist. It's just drive. But this is our entitled thinking. God made me this way, so he's okay that I just simply express the way he made me. So these are entitled thoughts. This is the first component within the compartment that we created. And it is future oriented. It grants us permission to do something in the future. It opens the door. It's not going through the door, it opens the door. It predates the first act of unfaithfulness towards your partner. That's entitlement. That's the first component down here in this compartment that we created. The second component is what we're going to call self-deception. That is present tense. That is right now, while I am doing the action, this is the script that's running in my mind. It is present tense. Self-deception happens right now, in the moment. It is the story I'm telling myself while I take action. So entitlement is before the action. Self-deception is during the action. Entitlement is future-oriented. Self-deception is present tense. It's right now. It's the live commentary that you're telling yourself that gives you permission to do what you're doing. When a betrayed partner asks, how could you live with yourself and do what you were doing? This is the answer. Not only did you have entitled beliefs that gave you permission in your mind to do it, but in the moment, you deceived yourself before you deceived anyone else. You rationalized it to self. These are scripts. Entitled beliefs are scripts that we play in our mind. Self-deception are scripts that we play in the moment. It's things like, in the middle of taking action, we will tell ourselves things like, I'm still a good man. I'm a good man upstairs. That's the real me. Or at least what I'm doing is not as bad as in recovery. Look at what he did. Or look at what he's doing right now. Or it's not as bad as I used to be. What I'm doing right now, I'm not really hurting anybody. There's no victims. What she doesn't know won't hurt her. Or another self-deception that we tell ourselves in the moment, I've got this under control. I can stop anytime. In fact, this is the last time. This is the last time I'm going to do this. Or another self-deception that happens in the moment that justifies what we're doing. She drove me to this. If she hadn't blank, or if she had been more blank, then I wouldn't have to meet my needs this way. I wouldn't have to do this. Another self-deception. All men do this. I'm a man. I'm just like any other man. Another self-deception. If I confess this to her, it would do more harm than if I just keep it a secret. And here's what I noticed about self-deception. Counterintuitive. The smarter the man, the more sophisticated the stories that he tells himself. The more educated the man, the more elaborate his script is. So he's not stupid, but he is self-deceived, and there is a difference. So what I want you to understand so far, that in this compartment that we've created, this secret inner life that she doesn't know about, entitlement is what predates the action. Self-deception is the script that's running during the action. It's present tense. Now, there's a third component that makes up the deceptive system, and it's what I'm going to call image management. and it is past tense. It's looking backwards. It's after the act. It's the script that's running that tries to do damage control. It's the cleanup operation. We do something downstairs in the basement. We come back upstairs to our other reality and our relationships in the house above, and we manage their perception of who we are. We take on a persona, and we soften what happened in the past, or we omit what happened in the past, or we reframe it, or we deny it. It is looking at the past. The biblical word for this in the Greek is hypocrisy, where we get the word hypocrite. It is pretending to be someone you're not. The harshest words in all of Jesus' ministry was reserved for the religious people of the day who were professional pretenders. They would put on this persona of being righteous and holy and religious and better than you. But he called them a whitewashed tomb. He said, you're a whitewashed tomb. What that means is the exterior, the tomb, it's washed, it's cleaned, it looks chiseled and precise and pristine and well presented, but inside you're full of dead bones. One of the best illustrations that I've heard recently of image management was a conversation I had this week with a guy, and he told me his very first job as a teenager was he worked at a fast food restaurant. And his first day on the job, they gave him a name tag that wasn't his name. So we'll say his name was Bob, okay? But the name tag they gave him was Tim. And so for 4 months, his first 4 months of work, he had the wrong name tag. And so when customers would complain about something that Tim did, he could, yeah, I'm okay with that because I'm not Tim. I'm Bob. And upstairs, he's Tim. Downstairs, he's Bob. And there's these two realities. And he's able to say, I didn't really do that because that was Tim and I'm Bob. In the same way with image management, we take on this ulterior identity, this persona. We pretend, we wear a mask, and it's backward looking. It's trying to soften or omit or change the narrative or defend or deny what we did in the past, what already happened. And we're trying to manage the perception of what everyone has of us, despite what we did yesterday. So if we take these three components in their context, entitlement is what allows me to open the door. Self-deception is me going through the door and taking the act. Image management is me looking back and saying, there's no door there. What door? Oh, that was a tiny door. That's small. That's a small door. I just put one foot in it. It's us minimizing or managing the perception that others have of us after we did the fact. So entitlement is forward-looking. It gives us permission to do something. Self-deception is the script that's running while we're doing it. And image management is the script that's running after the fact. This is a system. It's not random. This isn't an accident. Don't you dare call this a slip. This is a coordinated machine. This is a strategic operation. This is a system. And here's the point, men, that I want you to hear. Most important highlight of the day. This system survives your sobriety. You may be sober for 2 years, 5 years, whatever. This system is still there. The system survives your disclosure. It survives your 12 steps. It survives your therapy because it mutates. It puts on different clothing after discovery, but it's still there. And almost every recovery framework focuses on one thing. Are you sober? Are you still acting out in the basement? No? It's been a year. Here's a chip. This is what we measure. This is what we reward. This is what we focus on. And acting out was just a symptom of the system, and the system has not been dismantled. It hasn't been touched. So just because you're not acting out anymore in the basement does not mean the basement is still there. The basement is still there and it's still operating post disclosure in your recovery. Let me give you some examples. How does compartmentalization still function when I'm in recovery? I'm sober. I haven't acted out. I haven't done any of my inner circle behaviors in months or years. So how am I still living a compartmentalized life? I stopped the acting out. I'm sexually sober. You know what we often do? We actually make recovery a part of the basement. We've got our recovery compartment. It's a new compartment in our life. We've got our recovery life and we've got our regular life. And we don't let our partners know what's going on in our recovery compartment. We tell her, you stay on your side of the street, I'll stay on my side of the street. And all she knows is he goes to meetings, he meets with his sponsor, he's on step 6, he goes to therapy, he's got a coach. But I don't really know what's going on in his recovery because it's a new compartment in his life. And he doesn't give me access to that. Or another way compartmentalization shows up in our recovery is that we still don't share our inner life. We don't share it with brothers and we don't share it with her. We don't talk about our struggles. We don't talk about how shame or fear or loneliness showed up. We don't talk about, there were 2 moments today that I was tempted. What did I do with it? We don't talk about, yesterday I went into fantasy, but I didn't tell anybody about it. This morning I objectified a woman, but I didn't disclose that to anybody. Right? I've got some resentment towards my partner deep down inside of me, but I don't tell her about that. And our inner life is still a compartment that is closed off to everyone else. And we still have 2 souls, 2 selves, a secret compartment to our life that we don't allow anyone to shine light on. It's just ours. So we still live compartmentally, even though we're in recovery. What about entitlement? How does entitlement show up in recovery? Entitlement is often the last component to die because it's the hardest one to see. Because after discovery, it goes deep underground and it still functions. Let me give you some examples of how I've seen entitlement still function, even though we're sober, even though we're in recovery. One way that I see it show up is with timelines. We keep this ledger. That's what entitlement is, this ledger. And I haven't lied to her in 67 days. So I am owed a little bit more trust than she's given me. Why is she still suspicious? Why can't she get over this? I have been sober for X number of days. I am owed some closeness, or I am owed some intimacy by now, or forgiveness, or trust, or just a semblance of a normal life. I have done this work over here. She should be relaxing her boundaries. I should have a little bit more freedom by now. And there's this timeline, there's this ledger, and we feel like because I've done X, I deserve Y, and I'm not getting it from her. And now I have resentment because I'm not getting what I feel like I'm owed. That's entitlement. Another way entitlement shows up in recovery is we feel like we should be acknowledged for all this effort that we're doing in this column. But she doesn't see or recognize or validate all the change that I'm doing. All she points out is the things that haven't changed. And she's not respecting my timeline. And I resent her for that. Another way that entitled thinking can show up in recovery is this feeling that I deserve or I am owed a break, some relief. Can we just have one day where we don't talk about your pain? Can we just have a vacation from her wound? Because I'm tired. I need a break. I deserve a break after all the recovery work that I've done. That's entitlement. Still showing up, still functioning, and you're sober. How does self-deception show up in sobriety, in recovery? It shows up actually as part of our recovery. It's the script that we tell ourselves in the midst of recovery. We'll say things like, no, I'm not where she wants me to be, but gosh, I am not like I used to be. I am a lot better than I used to be. And she doesn't acknowledge that. She doesn't see my growth. She doesn't see my change. Or another way that self-deception shows up in recovery is we begin to minimize her wound. She shares her pain with us. And in that moment, remember, self-deception is present tense. In that moment, we've got this script running in our mind. Things like, she's overreacting. It's been 3 years. She should be further along than this. She should be granting me more trust and more privileges than I have. She's stuck. And we begin to minimize the wound. Or self-deception in the moment is we rationalize our own behavior. Yeah, I looked at that longer than 3 seconds. I shouldn't have done that, but at least it wasn't porn. Yeah, I went into fantasy, but I'm just going to call it a slip. A slip is a term that needs to be removed from our vocabulary. A slip is how we self-deceive in the moment. We minimize and we rationalize what we're doing. So self-deception still shows up in recovery. What about image management? How does that show when I'm sober? Image management is the most likely one out of all of these to survive. And let me tell you why. Because recovery rooms celebrate this. They're rewarded. When we share powerful insights from something we've learned or something our therapist said or something we gleaned from the big book, that is rewarded. And so here's what tends to happen, and this happens so often. We're sober and we take on this new persona. I am recovery man. That's who I am. I'm a changed man. I got a big R on my chest. And I have become fluent in recovery language. I've learned the culture. I speak the lingo. Sometimes I accidentally get on a work call that's not recovery related, and I'll accidentally say, hi, I'm Roy, and I'm a sex addict. Because I am a recovery man. I have taken on that identity as the new persona, and I attend these meetings, and it becomes recovery theater. It becomes a new me upstairs that I can impress, I can manage perception, I can adopt the language, and I could get the kudos from my brothers that I'm doing so great. And I recognize this because my first 2 years of recovery was recovery man. I was still doing image management, taking on a new persona. My persona when I had acting out going on in my life was my persona upstairs was, I'm a good husband, I'm a good provider, I'm a good dad, I'm a man of integrity. And I would try to manage that perception of everyone in my life. But now we can take on a new persona. I'm recovery man. I am the humble, changed man. And so I carefully use language in my shares and my fellowship calls and conversations with my sponsor to continue to curate that image that I'm in strong recovery, whether that is reality or not. Here's what I'm saying, guys. It is not a question of whether these 4 are still there, because I guarantee they are. They're still there. They're still influencing. They're still operating. They're still providing impulses to you. So the question is not, are these still there? Yeah, they are. And if you got really honest, you would notice it and you would admit it. That's not the question. The question is this. The question is, are you identifying it? Are you naming it? Are you labeling it in real time with the witness? Because that's how you dismantle it. You don't dismantle it in one moment. You don't identify it and make a list and I throw it away and now I don't have any of these components. It's not dismantle, it's dismantling. It is a process. This is going to take months and years. I am still dismantling these 4 things in my life. How do you do that? You notice it in real time when it shows up. You name it either inside yourself or verbally, and you dismantle it by bringing it upstairs to someone else, a witness, that same day. The biblical term for that is confession. I own it. I shine the light on it. I expose it for what it is. That was compartmentalization. That was image management. That was self-deception. That was entitlement. I recognize it and I bring it upstairs and I name it with someone else that day. That is dismantling, and it needs to be done every day. So, for example, if self-deception shows up today, if I find myself having this script inside when she's sharing her pain with me and I find myself thinking, she should be further along than this. She's stuck. She's not healing. She's not getting any better. I can recognize that is self-deception. I call it out. And I call my sponsor or brother after that painful conversation, and I bring it upstairs with him. And I say, listen, I had self-deception going on today. This is what I was thinking. And when you bring it upstairs, it dissipates. It begins the dismantling process. That script is being exposed and it's being weakened because you're confessing it. Let's say image management shows up today. You make a call after a difficult conflict with your partner. And as you're telling your sponsor or your accountability brother, you're telling a brother about it, you're telling a therapist about it, you recognize in the moment, I am omitting the fact that I did A, B, and C. I'm omitting that. And I'm exaggerating and highlighting what she did. I am actively trying to make myself look innocent and make her look like the villain. I am making myself into the victim right now. I need to call that out. And you name it, you identify it, you bring it upstairs with that person in the moment. You know what? I omitted this and this. And I exaggerated about her behavior when I said this. This is image management. I need to call it out. I need to confess it to you. Or image management, one of the best ways to dismantle image management in your life is to do step 9 with the people who are closest to you. That amends step. When I did step 9, I talked to my mom, I talked to my dad, I talked to my brother, I talked to my sister, I talked to my 4 kids, of course, talked to my partner. I talked to close friends in my life. I talked to my former pastor. There were over 20 people that I sat down with one-on-one and said, I have had a secret compartment in my life. I deceived you. I did not live according to my values. And what I found next time I saw those people, I wasn't really so focused on maintaining a persona because I already exposed the persona. I showed them the real Roy. There was nothing to maintain. And so it dismantled a lot of the image management in my life that was still going on, even though I was sober. What about entitlement? If entitlement shows up today, how do I recognize it? How do I dismantle it? Look for the ledger. It's there. Are you bean counting? Are you thinking to yourself, I've been sober for 743 days. Do you notice how granular that is? The ledger's going and you're counting days. I've been sober for 743 days. It should earn me blank. That's entitlement. It's functioning. The system is still operating right now. Entitlement is one of the hardest ones to dismantle in your life because it just feels like fairness. It just feels like justice. Compartmentalization. How do I get rid of that in recovery? Am I still keeping my recovery or my inner life secret and compartmentalized? I need to bring it upstairs. If my partner is willing to receive it, I need to share what's happening in my interior. I need to externalize it with her. This is where I struggle today. This is what I was feeling today. These were the temptations I faced today and what I did with them. I noticed some resentment building up in my heart about this. Here's what I'm doing in my recovery work. Here's what I'm learning. Here's what I'm currently actively working on. Do you see the theme? We bring it upstairs. And when we bring it upstairs, the compartment begins to collapse because it's being exposed. And when the compartment collapses, there's no structure, there's no space for these 3. Confession is the answer to dismantling this deceptive system in our life. It will not take days, it will not take weeks, it will take months, and it will take years. But here's what you'll notice. Here's what I've noticed in my life. I've been doing this for years. I've noticed that these impulses are getting fewer and further between. And when they show up, I recognize them. I call them out. I confess. One more warning. While you're doing this dismantling work of the deceptive system and you're trying to tear down these four things in your inner life and completely eradicate the basement, here's the warning. Do not do this work expecting some kind of relational outcome upstairs. If your main motivation for doing this dismantling work is so that she will blank, so that she'll trust me, so that we can have intimacy again, so that she will tone down her hypervigilance. If you're doing this work to get some kind of relational outcome from her, two things. Number one, it won't work. Number two, that's performance. There's a string attached. That's not integrity. And she will recognize the performative nature of that. I think that's where I'm going to stop.